Hello, I am Mystic Orange and this is video hashtag 472. Before we get into this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel. In this video, I'll be reviewing 16, Season 1, Episode 3. The episode title is Slow and Even Tempered. I do like the title of this episode. It makes me think of Fast and Furious. In the first scene, before we get into the theme song, Jen is having nightmares about driving a bus. When Jen wakes up, it reveals that she is having a driving license. Note that she is 16 years old. Maybe it's different in Canada, but here in the UK, people usually get the driving license when they're 18. So I do find this interesting. We then get to the iconic theme song. It's one of the best theme songs ever. I already did a video where I ranked all the cartoon theme songs, so do check that out. 16 is at number 1. In the next scene, Wyatt comes into the table wearing a retro jacket. The other characters, especially Caitlin, are mocking Wyatt for his jacket. Some friend they're supposed to be. And I never understood that problem with Wyatt's jacket. He looks really handsome in it. Meanwhile, as usual, Jonesy is looking for a new job. And this time, Jonesy is working as an assistant security guard. So he's gonna work for Ron the rent-a-cop. In the next scene, Jen is getting lunch for Coach Holder. So she goes to his ticket to get some kebabs for Coach Holder. Coach Holder wants to be surprised, but nothing spicy. While preparing Coach Holder's lunch, Jude notices that Jen is reading our driver's manual. If you know something about me, I never drive and I don't think I'll ever drive. It has never been my interest to drive. So for me, reading a manual is probably one of the worst ways to learn how to drive. You don't learn how to drive just by reading how to do it. You kind of have to experience it. So I kind of agree with Jude when he says that Jen can't just learn it by the book. I find it interesting that Jude and Jen talk about crashing. That's one big reason I don't drive. And another thing, just because you're good at driving doesn't mean other people are. So you might be doing a good job, but everyone else might be a chaotic mess. That's just some notes for you. So Jude goes off to help Jen out with her driving license. It's revealed here that Jude also has driving license. How do these 16-year-olds have driving license? In the next scene, Josie tries to get a job with Ron the rent-a-cop. If only that was easy in real life. So Ron makes Jonesy go through an intense interview stage, which I did find fun and interesting. I think the most interesting about the interview stage is the lies section. This is where Ron asks Jonesy some questions, and if he answers dishonestly, he'll know because it will scribble. Kind of like a lie detector. The first question Ron asks Jonesy is that has he ever been arrested? Jonesy answers honestly and it reveals that he hasn't. So we know the fact that he hasn't been arrested before. The second question is more interesting. Ron asks Jonesy, has he ever said anything bad about a mall security officer before? For this question, Jonesy answers dishonestly and says he hasn't. We know Jonesy was lying in this because it did scribble when he answered. So it's a fact that Jonesy has said something bad about a mall security officer before. And we have evidence to back that up. In the first episode, Jonesy says, that guy creases me. He says that to Ron, who is a mall security officer. So Ron already knows that Jonesy has been lying. Yet somehow he hires him. And Ron should know that Jonesy has been talking about him. Because who else would Jonesy would be talking about? So in the next scene, Jude goes off to help Jen. It does surprise me that Jen is the one who's listening to Jude. You'd think it would be the other way around. In the next scene, we see Jonesy in his uniform. He is officially a 16-year-old assistant security guard. And I've got to say, Jonesy looks dashing in his uniform. However, the next part about the scene makes me feel sick. We see Yumi Mumi, who is a grown-ass woman with her child. She is practically hitting on Jonesy, who is a minor. I didn't think much of the scene when I was a kid, because I thought it was something fun and flirty. But now I'm older and wiser, I can see how problematic this is. Look, if it's bad a grown man hits on a girl, so is a grown woman hitting on a boy. This Yumi Mummy lady is disgusting. In the next scene, Jude and Jen go to an arcade so that Jen could play a video game to help her with her driving. You think I would think this is a dumb idea, but video games have helped people drive cars all the time. I mean, you gotta think how most people, especially guys, can able to drive cars nowadays. Not to put gender stereotypes in this channel or anything, it's just an observation that doesn't mean anything. But also you can really tell that this show came out in the 2000s. I mean, in today's era, do people still go to arcades to play video games? Let me know if you're one of those people who still go to arcades to play video games. In the next scene, Wyatt is looking for his lucky jacket. He looked over the food cart and he still couldn't find it. Caitlin straight up lied to his face and hid the jacket. In the last episode, Nikki was bothering me. In this episode, Caitlin is bothering me. First of all, I gotta respect Nikki in this episode for being chill. For once, Nikki is being mature in this episode, unlike how she was in the previous episode. But in this episode, Caitlin is the one who's being immature. Like some friend, like why would you hide Wyatt's jacket and lie to his face? I also don't think in this episode Caitlin is a good friend. She'd be too embarrassed to be seen by you. Later in the scene, Jonesy comes in with his uniform. And Caitlin and Nikki are surprised that he managed to secure the job. And Nikki was so turned on by his uniform. I mean, girl, you're not even fooling Jonesy with that one. I mean, as viewers, we can all see it. I mean, do I blame her? Jonesy looks really handsome in his uniform. In the next scene, it's revealed that Jen really did poorly in this video game. And Jude was definitely not happy about that. So this is where Jude gives Jen one of his passionate speeches. You know when Jude is going over dramatic towards Jen, it makes me think of Total Drama where Chris goes over dramatic towards Gwen. I mean, I can't stop noticing it. In the next scene we have Serena and Wyatt. This is actually the first appearance of Serena. She is the manager at Spin This. So basically she is Wyatt's boss. Just like how Coach Holder is Jen's boss, or how Chrissy is Nikki's boss. For now, I don't have much strong opinions on her, but I'm sure I'm going to give my honest opinion about her in the future. For this episode, I don't mind her that much. I think she makes as a decent manager. She's definitely better than Chrissy or Coach Holder. I think she is level-headed, which is a good trait for her. So in this episode, she fired one of her employees. I mean, she is a manager, this is her job. So she made Wyatt manage two music sections. The country music section and the kids music section. So she makes him cover two sections while she gets new employees. I actually don't mind her for this. I actually respect her for this. As a manager, that's kind of her job. And when you get a job, you kind of have to expect your roles being changed. Honestly, it depends on the situation. So I don't think Wyatt should be surprised here. But it's revealed that things haven't gone Wyatt's way. He is still looking for his jacket. And he hasn't finished rehearsing for his audition. In the next scene, we can see Jen still playing video games. And it seems like she's doing better at it. It's funny to see Jen with the laser gun. In the next scene, we're back at the food court with Wyatt, Caitlin, and Nikki. Wyatt is still stressing over his jacket, and Caitlin is still being an unsupportive friend. But she does suggest Wyatt to wear a black pleather jacket. Now I would love to see Wyatt in black pleather jacket. I think it will suit him. But I still stand by my original statement. He really looks good in that retro jacket. So Caitlin's plan is backfiring and she plans to give it back to him. You know what? If I was Caitlin, I could have just come up with a lie and just said, oh, it's in my lab and I just found it. She isn't smart, I can tell you that. Like, if you're gonna lie to Wyatt, at least make a good one. In the next scene, we have montage of Jonesy and Ron the Rent-A-Cop goofing off. Honestly, it's funny to see. Sometimes, at least in season 1, I do like Ron the Rent-A-Cop. He seems like a pretty cool guy. I also like his voice actor. He does a good portrayal on Ron the Rent-A-Cop. In the next scene, we're back at the arcade and Jen has succeeded the video game. They also find out that Jonesy works for Ron the Rent-A-Cop. This is where Jen and Jude kind of be bad friends, where they trick Jonesy to give him key to the atrium. I am more forgivable towards them for what they did to Jonesy than I am with Caitlin what she did with Wyatt. I think it's because this scene is supposed to be comical, and I agree it is. Also, I'm less distraught about Jonesy losing a job, since he gets a new one every day. So Jude and Jen get a pass for me. And also, Jonesy was kind of stupid to give away his key. Like, maybe don't do that. Whatever. We have so many things going on in the next scene. Both Nikki and Caitlin are trying to find Wyatt to give back his jacket. They search him everywhere, but they can't find him. This bit I did find funny. Both Caitlin and Nikki go up escalator and they couldn't hear each other. It's funny. You have to watch it to experience it yourself. But it turns out that Wyatt was just sulking near the fountain. Meanwhile, Jude and Jen jack an expensive orange car. As much as I don't like driving cars, this car seems like up my alley. It's so cool looking and it's in my favorite color. Then the craziest thing happened in this episode. Jen drove her car backwards and it almost killed Wyatt. The car landed in the fountain. The water splashed everywhere. And Nikki is right, he should be dead by now. And finally they give back Wyatt's jacket. So in the next scene, Jonesy gets fired for obvious reasons, like giving his key to Jude. This is where Ron the Rent-A-Cop wanted Jonesy to give back his uniform. In front of everyone. It was funny, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes Jonesy can be funny. I just hope he's wearing underwear. The other characters seem like they were into it, especially Caitlin and Nikki. But if he's not wearing underwear, I think that's kind of incriminating for Ron to do that. Like, security guards aren't above the law. And making a minor naked in front of everyone is kind of criminal. I forgot the exact term for it, but you know, it's not good. Especially if it's in a public area where other minors probably could see it as well. So even if Jonesy was 18 years or older, it still would be incriminating. Like, you can't be naked in front of children. So let's not practice illegal behaviors. And at the end of the episode, Wyatt gets to sing his song. It's called Lady Luck. I do have an unpopular opinion. I kind of hate Wyatt's singing voice. I never liked it as a kid and I don't like it now. He sounds too pitchy for my liking. So that's it for this video. I really did enjoy this episode. So this episode kind of has 3 plot lines. Jen obviously has the main plot line. Wyatt has his plot line and Jonesy has his plot line. However, I feel like Wyatt's plotline felt more important than Jen's plotline. I felt more focused on his storyline than I did with the others. And sometimes I did feel like Jonesy's plotline was more important than Jen's plotline. I think my favorite moment of this episode is anything what Jonesy did. In my opinion, his plotline was the most fun. And I think my least favorite thing about this episode is anything what Caitlin did. Like, everyone was rude about Wyatt's jacket, but Caitlin's behavior was much worse. So anyway, that's my general summary of this episode. I really enjoyed making this video. I had fun making it. Anyway, subscribe to this channel and have a lovely day.